Why should you visit thechairshot.com? Thechairshot.com is your home for hard-hitting reviews, news, opinion, and analysis with attitude. Why? Because you're smarter than the average fan. Thechairshot.com. Always use your head.
So going on to, you mentioned PWA, some business decisions and stuff like that, it closed down. And then I think it had been like a year after you opened Reach Wrestling. So what was your thoughts on like opening it? Obviously PWA shut down, but was there any like reluctancy with you and Grayson to maybe open up essentially a company in place of another?
Yeah, there certainly was. Yeah, of course. So I'll give you. I'll try. I mean, I ramble on, but I'll try to keep it as punctual as I can. You've got when PWA went out of business, I had tried to buy it initially.
Okay.
Before it went out of business, because I knew things were bad, and I had chats with chaps that owned it. One of them left at the last minute and he moved away and left it to his buddy to run. But unfortunately for his buddy, he wasn't a bad guy. He just was the wrong man to run a company, because he didn't know what he was doing, and he didn't have anybody to fall back on to help him. So he just couldn't do what was required. I mean, what was needed to, and he just ended up in a bad spot. So I ultimately suggested that I won't go into the exact details of money and everything, but what I did offer to do was, make him some money. So he walked away with something and basically said, I'm in a position where at the time where I could probably sort this all out for you, and you just walk away and let me deal with it, because I loved wrestling in Plymouth. It's the biggest city in the southwest for wrestling. It's the hottest crowd, Plymouth, and that's like our. You got obviously a lot larger cities up in the north or whatever, but we here in the south, Plymouth is one of the big ones.
Yep.
Definitely in the southwest, it's the biggest one. So I just didn't want it to, we were tag team champions. We were hot. I was about to go into a feud with Robin Lakeem at the time. I was about to start a singles run, I think, and move up the card and everything. And I was like, this is, So I didn't, for selfish reasons, I didn't want it to go out of business, because I loved it. But we couldn't quite come to a deal that we wanted. And I was talking to my friend Grayson at the time, and kept going on about how I was going to buy it and everything. He was like, I wouldn't do this, I wouldn't do that, yada, yada, yada. And we had our final meeting where we, tried to work out ultimately. The sticking point was money. That was obviously what was, we couldn't come to an agreement on that. And if you can't come to an agreement on that, you can't come to an agreement on anything, because you could cross every, T and dot every I, but if we couldn't get that, then it was, and we couldn't. So I remember speaking to Grayson about it, and he said, look, I wouldn't bother. He said, I would just start my own company. He said, why buy theirs? Why not start your own? And it just was in my head like, wait a minute, it was just like a passing comment he made in like an hour-long conversation. And it was with me for a little bit. And I thought to myself, for a few weeks, I weighed it up in my mind and said, could I start my own? And I thought, I know what I'm like. I don't always make the best decisions. So I thought I would need some help. Who can I turn to? And I thought, well, who better than my buddy Grayson? Because we're best pals in wrestling. And I just thought, do you know what? If I'm going to do this, I need him, because he knows me as well. So he knows if I'm being, ridiculous, or he'll tell me if I'm being a bit of a prick. He'll be the first one to say, no, come on, So I needed something like that. So I was hounding him for weeks, trying to I was hounding him, saying, come on, we can do it, start our own company, the hell with it, we'll do it. And he's like, I'm a wrestler, I'm not a promoter, I've got no interest in running shows. What was he at the time? 25, 26, something like that, roughly. He's like, I'm too young, things are going good for me, don't spoil it. And in the end, I was doing some work for 4FW. I was doing some commentating for 4FW up in Swindon, and Dave Sharp, and he lived in Swindon. So that night, I was going to drive back the next day, or I think even next day or that, and I can't remember, but I was going to drive back. And I said to him, like, oh, I've been going on it for hours. And I said, all I'm saying is, how would it look if we booked a show, me and you, how would it look? And he said, fine. And I've told this line at least 100 times. I remember it. I remember till I'm dead. He goes, fine. He goes, you put the kettle on, I'll get a pen and paper. And as soon as he said that, like when he walked out the room, I clapped my hands. I said, I fucking got him here. I said, I know I've got him. Because I knew if we wrote down on paper how the card would look and who we would put where and what we would do, I knew if he saw it, he'd think, no, that's really good. Like, we need to do that, you know, which is kind of what happened, right? So once we started putting it together, we were like, oh, that'd be a really good card. And then the creative juices just started flowing. We would use this venue, then we could try and get this, and then there's and one thing after another. And what we did was we bought the social media Facebook page, PWA. They had something like 2,000 sort of fans on their page at the time. So I bought that page off the chap that ran PWA, and we started its reach. We did like an under construction for a few weeks. There were a few changes on the page deliberately, and fans were all commenting things on the page like, who is this? What's going on? Is this still wrestling? What's happening? And getting all these messages and everything. And we were kind of keeping it quiet for a little while. We didn't want anybody knowing. Then we went to America to the Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
In 2019. Yeah, 2019. We 2018. Sorry, 2018. We went to Royal Rumble, and we started posting. We started releasing everything about Reach Wrestling. The beginning, all on the social media page, and everybody was, commenting. It was blowing up a little bit, and down here, and all the wrestlers started contacting the page and asking questions about who is this, because we're trying to stay on the QT. We didn't want anybody knowing it was us running the show, and he spoke them because he shared a post as Grayson Reeves, not as Reach Wrestling. And like it was up for about 10 minutes, and someone obviously saw it, and I told him, delete it quick,
Mm-hmm.
you moron. But it's too late, the cat was out of the bag. But it actually did us really good numbers, because we announced that we were the promoters. A day later, we put the tickets on sale. We sold out our first show, so I think it worked in our favor a little bit, because fans knew who we were as wrestlers. So I think it probably made them think, oh, it's some of the local wrestlers and everything. Just it's been on the up ever since, mate.
No, brilliant. Why the name Reach? Where did that come from?
Good question. So we were trying to think of a name when I was driving back to Swindon, and I was listening to a song called "Am I Wrong" by Nico and Vinz.
Okay.
And in the song, there's a line in the song that says, "Am I wrong for trying to reach the things that I can't see?" And when I heard that line, like it just struck me, and I just almost swerved a car off the road. To be honest, I was like, super excited and punching the steering wheel, and I said, "That's it!" And I just pressed back like 10 seconds, and I heard it again. It said, "Am I wrong for trying to reach the things that I can't see?" And I thought, because Reeves has said to me, he said, we need something like short and snappy, because you got Progress, and you had what's everyone's like Hustle, and all these companies now with like one name. It wasn't like something wrestling
Or something City Wrestling.
Yeah, it all just became, these days, was like short and sharp, and then we just were like, okay, well, how can we come up with something like that? And I remember calling him, when I was driving home, and I said to him, "Are you ready? I've got the name. Are you ready?" And he's like, "Okay, ready." I said, "Listen," I said, "it's short and snappy. Are you ready?" And he's like, "Yes." And I'm quiet for a few seconds, trying to build the bloody suspense, and I go, "Reach." And he's quiet for like 3 seconds, but felt like 5 minutes, and I thought, say something in my heart's going like hell, and he goes, "That could work." And I was like, well, here we go, this is it. And then he's like, it could be like a hand, he said, reaching through the ring. And I said, that'd be perfect. Yeah, absolutely. So he's got a good friend of his who is like a graphic designer, and he just sent us like the logo, which initially the logo was just a random hand from the internet. But then we got it so that it was Grayson's hand, so that it's officially like his hand, so nobody can like try to copyright that anywhere else. Right? I mean, it's his bloody hand. So now we've got just something short and snappy with the name Reach. And it's always really cool when I hear people sort of talk about Reach and they call it Reach, even when they call it Reach, like in interviews or in like posts that I see from fans and wrestlers, just because Reach to me really just means like our work, like our efforts and our time and everything, and like what we put into it. And I think that's what Reach just kind of means to me. So it's always really cool.
Yeah.
Anytime I hear someone sort of say, like they don't say like, "Oh, Plymouth Wrestling," like it used to be. It was Plymouth Wrestling. Now it's Reach, right? So it's just a really kind of really cool, man. I feel like a fan all over again. When whenever I see something like Reach, I'm just like, yes, that's us. That's our work, man. That's our work.
No, and I think the name on itself has legs on it. I think when companies use their city or the locality for the name, I think that kind of puts, I don't know, it kind of puts the restraints on how big they can grow. And it's no knock, because there has been some fantastic companies where, like Plymouth or, for example, Preston City Wrestling, where they've done some great stuff. But I think when it's companies like Progress, Rev Pro, Reach, NGW, where they're not locality exclusive, it gives the company growth where fans nationwide or overseas can relate to them because they're not having to try and relate to a town or a city relating to the name and the company.
Yeah, mate, I think you're spot on. I think that's what we wanted. I think that's it. We didn't want to sound regional.
Yeah.
We didn't want to sound like, as you said, like based out of a city. You said one there. Did you say Preston City Wrestling?
Yeah.
Yes, that's a great great example. Preston's like where I'm from in the south. Like Preston is like north to us. And like I mean I don't know how big Preston is. I've been to Wigan. I don't think I've ever been to Preston, but it's a bit like Plymouth Wrestling Association. To me, it would, or even Devon Wrestling Association, who I don't know if they're still in business anymore, but they it just with a name like that, it sounds to me as an outsider looking in like primarily your focus is just that one town or one city or one county, and I mean that might be like they might put on. Right, I've never been to a Preston show, so it's not a dig. They might put on the best shows in the entire country. That I have no idea. I have no idea. That there might be really, really shows, but no different than the Plymouth Wrestling Association. When you've got that town's name in it, to me it would make me think that your aspiration is just that city, and that's fine. Like, but ours wasn't. Ours was to reach, right, whatever heights, whatever cities, whatever towns. We're across two counties at the moment, Devon and Cornwall. So. With a bit more coming, so we, at this stage at least, we're across two counties, and we're just gonna do what we can. It's really cool to hear you say that you think the name's got legs. It's quite a cool feeling to know. That makes me happy. It's cool, man. It's good. Thank you.
No, it's all right. Like, well, you said Preston's way up north. I'm further north than Preston. So that's I'm further north than Preston. I'm closer to like Newcastle, like in Yorkshire. So yeah.
Where's Preston to then?
Preston's closer to Manchester. Yeah, it's the Lancashire area, I believe, whereas I'm like Yorkshire, a bit further northeast.
Okay. See, for me, right, I mean, I'm born in Exeter, but I've moved an hour even south of that, which is Plymouth. To me, like anything past Birmingham, Coventry is north. So, like, I think you're probably like, you're thinking to yourself, what an idiot. So for me, like, I don't know too much the difference between, say, Newcastle and Manchester and Liverpool. To me, that Manchester and Liverpool quite near each other.
Yeah, Liverpool, Manchester are very close, whereas Newcastle, that's still like an hour or so on the train from Manchester.
Yeah. Is that a little bit further north?
Yeah, so Newcastle's closer to like the Scottish border than like myself or Manchester.
And where's this is becoming quite good. This is a geography lesson now. Where's Middlesbrough's near Newcastle?
Yeah, so you've got like Sunderland, Middlesbrough, Newcastle in terms of like football teams and stuff like that. They're all close. Then you've got like Manchester, Liverpool, And then when you do Yorkshire, it's like Hull, Leeds, and that kind of seems the north. But yeah, geography lessons, especially for our international listeners, you now know all the regional areas of the UK.
Yeah. when you 6 months from now and you look over and it says Reach Wrestling comes to the north, and it's like like Yorkshire, you're gonna be like, oh, okay, yeah, that's the proper north. More buzz.
Yep. But no, so like moving on for a little bit then. So what was your reaction like after your first show then? You've done your first show. What was you and Grayson thinking, discussing? Because obviously that's the biggie. Like, do we do a second show?
Yeah, it was. We booked 3 shows from the get-go,
Okay.
just so that we did that because we told ourselves, if the first one goes horrifically bad, and we put so much planning. We were ready by May because we've been planning since January, so we were ready by May. 4 months of work. We worked every day. I mean, we didn't have a day off for shit, I don't know, 8-9 months when we started. We did not. I mean, not a day off. I'm talking. We call each other up 2 o'clock in the morning. You like they keep the phone on loud in case I call about what, anything. And like you'd be called at 2 o'clock in the morning, turn your bedside lamp on, you're like, yes, mate. And he'd be like, oh my god, I've been thinking. And you're like, okay, go on. Like, like that went for about 8 months, before we finally relaxed and be like, okay, I think we've got this now. We just the first one went really well, and we've been part of some shows that didn't go very well.
Yeah.
So that we were able to say to ourselves, I mean, those were learning shows. I mean, I look back now. When I was part of them, I was probably a little bit bitter and probably thinking like, oh, it should be better than this and this. And whereas now I look back and I'm grateful for some of those smaller shows because they were all learning experience, and I had so much fun, and the people I met, and every audience is still an audience. And my job isn't to, back in those days, wasn't to promote the show. My job was to go out there and give that paying audience, the best performance I could. And I think when I look back now, I look back with fond memories at some of the smaller shows I did. But the feeling after the first one was very much like, okay, we did it, like we've done it, and straight on to the next one. I think I had about 2 minutes. I'm like, right, next show, let's go. And we were like, October's next. But my friend Adam Flint, who had come down for that show, because he pretty much quit by this point. He'd pretty much done wrestling because he moved back to London. He had an injury. He'd injured his collarbone at Progress the year prior, and never really kind of taken any time off to heal it. So I think he just sort of said to himself, do you know what? I'll wrestle till I decide not to, ultimately, which was about another 6 months. And he was like, yeah, this isn't fun. So he needed some time off. So he took me outside. We're in the pub, and everyone's like celebrating the great show. But me and Grayson were already talking about business next show. And he says, come out, I need to talk to you. And he takes me outside and he said, look, he said, take a moment. He said, think about what you just done. He said, that's one of the best shows I've ever been on. And he said, in the Southwest, he said, it was your first bloody show. He said, like, he said, be proud, man. He said, take a moment. Think about what you've achieved. He said, I know how hard you've worked. And he said, like, be proud. I said, oh, I am proud. But the thing is, he said, no. He said, enjoy tonight. We're out drinking. He said, no more business talk. He said, when we go back in there, let's get some shots and let's relax. And I ended up paying probably. But like, ultimately, like, his thing was like, savor the moment. You worked. I mean, we killed ourselves. Like, we're so burnt out by the day of the show because we had worked like so hard to just make sure. We triple checked things like, is the ring coming? I mean, of course the ring's coming, but we were so adamant that we just didn't want anything to go wrong. That we absolutely just we just could not. We just, failure wasn't an option. We just wasn't an option. And I think the feeling was, the next morning we woke up and like in the hotel or everywhere, and it was like, okay, right, next show, let's go. And it was like time to go to work. And it's kind of been like that really ever since, so fast, nearly 2 years now, or whatever it's been nearly. It's just kind of been, I mean, July would have marked 2-year anniversary of, from our show. And we managed to slow down a little bit because of coronavirus. So it's given us time to, business has got to stop. There's still stuff we can do, and there is still stuff we do, but most of what we do is not sort of applicable at the moment. So it's finally give us another chance for the first time in 2 years to stop and kind of be proud. I mean, the machine sort of works now. Like it doesn't need constant tweaking and twigging and parts changing all the time. That it's functioning correctly, and I think it's nice to be able to sit back and stop and say, "Well, you did that. Like, that was your work." Yeah.
No, 100%. And you mentioned the 2-year anniversary. Like, that's huge. Obviously, we don't know what will be happening at the moment with the nationwide lockdown due to the pandemic. But 728 days later, originally scheduled 4th of July, was it the Plymouth Guildhall?
Yes. Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And like that itself, Jason, like you're 2 years in and you're doing the biggest independent wrestling show in the Southwest and the biggest wrestling show outside of WWE around there. So how did that feel? Like, obviously, I know things are up in the air at the moment, but just being able to get to that stage in so early in your promoting career, how did that feel?
That's a really really good question. I think there's two sides to the answer. All right. There's like the I don't mean it in like a cocky way, but there's that side of you. I think we're all a little bit egotistical. That's why we, wrestle on our pants, for Christ's sake, and demand people's adulation when we're wrestling. I mean, so there's a part of us that we've all got some kind of, ego. So I think the ego part of it makes me say we've worked so hard that's what I want, like, and that's what we're striving to get, right? And we've put the work in to get that. So that's one part of it. But if I'm completely honest, that part is such a small part, because the bigger part, I think, is there's that fan side of you that still says, like, holy cow, like, can we be part of this? It's like, you're running the damn thing, but I'm still like, how, like, this is an incredible thing for wrestling in this part of the country, because it's one of my things was when I first looked at the landscape of wrestling, people used to talk all the time. Like, all the fans used to say to me, "Will you ever wrestle in the North? Will you wrestle in the North?" And I was like, "What do you mean? I'm from the South. Like, why would I? It's a long way to go. Like, what do you mean?" And I started to read up on a lot of companies, and at the time, I think a lot of the top companies seemed to be in the North, or like London. Us down in the Southwest, I think there just wasn't as much wrestling, and I don't think there was, in the most respectful way, as many reputable companies. And I mean, there was talent for Christ for days, but the platform wasn't as, I don't think it was as big or perhaps as well as organized when I first broke in. Like, down here, I think is the truth of it. Not to insult anybody, because I'm from the South through and through. If there was like a turf war, I'm a Southern man. Like, that's who I am. But it didn't change the reality that wrestling simply didn't appear, at least, as good down here or as big down here as it was in the North. And I just I couldn't understand in the beginning why that was. And I always thought to myself, like, I live in Exeter. I mean, it's got to cost a promoter a lot of money, no matter how good I am or how good I think I am. Like, it's not going to cost a promoter a lot of money to bring in, even a car full of people coming up from Exeter or from Plymouth. And if we want to go to Manchester or Liverpool or Newcastle, it's a long. I mean, we have no problems doing it, of course, but it's just a long way to go. It's a long way to travel. And I think sometimes promoters have to look at risk versus reward, and different promoters work different ways and everything. And if you're the kind of, if you've got your own training school in the South, you're probably going to use people from your training school. If you train school in the North, perhaps you're going to use people from that school. Or if you're in Wales or if you're in Ireland or London, it's can be difficult financially sometimes when business is down or whatever to justify bringing in people from so far away. So one of the things that made me want to run a show of this size eventually to start reach really was because I wanted wrestling to be as strong where I'm from in Devon as anywhere else in the country. I wanted that same reputation. I wanted that same sort of level of I guess, credibility, and I wanted, if I could, to not have to be in the car for 6 hours to go there. If I could be in the car for 30 minutes, travel to get to one of these massive shows, I thought that would be, probably easier for me than having to go, 6, 10, 12 hours around to get to a show if possible. So it was a bit of self-preservation as well, but we just wanted something good, and Grayson came up with the idea of running the Guildhall. He was the one that suggested it several times to me, and I thought we're not quite there yet as a company. We're not quite there. I mean, I didn't think we were, and I just, because I guess sometimes there's a part of me that still looks at what we do and still says we've got so much to learn, and there's so many other good promoters in this country. Like, I'd love to sit down with Brian Dixon and listen to him, and he's been wrestling for so long, and what's that? I can't remember the chap's name. Runs Welsh Wrestling. I mean, they do 200 shows a year. I'd love to talk to him. And you've got so many different promoters. I mean, the guy that runs Progress, I'd be really interested. Or even Rev Pro, Andy at Rev Pro. But there was WAW, Ricky Knight. I love talking to Ricky, and he's been promoting wrestling for 25 years or 30, 40, whatever it is now. I mean, I'd love to sit down with these guys and say, what would you recommend? How are you doing this? So I can learn from them still, because it is, as you say, only 2 years in. We've still got so much to learn about business, and even about wrestling, and about promoting wrestling, and it's like I say, there's a small part of me as that sort of cocky kind of almost like teenage boy collar up kind of attitude, like, look at us. But it's such a small part of the bigger picture that it's really like we're just hoping, and I mean, we're at a point now with this show where we've lost so much advertising time because there's no certainty it's going to go ahead. So it's just a very tough spot to be in at the moment. And I think we're probably going to need to make a business decision, really. But we can't make any real sort of in stone decisions until the government gives us our directive, because ultimately that's who, is. I think we can be forgiven, if plans change. I think the fans will understand. I mean, it's never been a global pandemic before, so it's new territory to everybody. But I think no matter what happens, in one fashion or another, we intend to run our shows in July. 3 of them booked in, and we intend to run every single one of them. Because we can't miss the you can't miss the anniversary show. That's our anniversary.
Exactly.
You can't miss that. It's got to. That's part and parcel of what we do. And it's a night for everybody. It's a night for all of us to say thanks to the fans, and it's a night for us to go out there and just perform and show the world what we think professional wrestling looks like.
No, I hope it goes ahead. Hopefully, in the best scenario, it's Plymouth Guildhall. But if it's moving location due to the pandemic, like, again, fans should excuse you for that. They should understand, and regardless of where it is, as long as it can go. I know you mentioned you'd rather not drive 6 hours to a show, but I did actually get my ticket and booked the coach down from up from Hull down to Plymouth, and the coach itself on the way there will take 11 hours and 50 minutes.
Jesus.
Yeah.
11 hours on the coach. You're going to want a beer when you get there, aren't you?
Oh, yes. I've already said to Luke, I was like, after the show, I'm going to travel down on the Friday and then go back the Sunday. So I'll be making a weekend of it. So there will be a lot of shots and beers in between.
Yeah, there you go. Good choice. We'll have to, man. You'll have to come out with us all, and if it's 11 hours you've travelled, we have to make it worth it for you.
Oh, yes,
we'll have to make sure. Definite, yeah. God damn, it's a long way to go. Well, that's commitment. That's proper journalism, that is.
Yep, I try my best. The fiance is not best pleased the amount of time I'm traveling around, but yeah, this year I was like, right, I'm gonna limit which shows I go to, especially traveling further afield. And yeah, this was one of them. I thought, right, I'm gonna go do it. And after doing all these different interviews as well, like, even more excited for it. If you are like me and you're listening and you've not really seen Reach much, I hadn't, just due to the geography. Check out your fight site. You can subscribe on there to have a look at some of the shows. Well, all the shows are on there with some fantastic matches. And one of the things that I really enjoyed about that the show that I'd watched was Kyle Parker versus Danny Steele. And it was two people that came out of your academy. So I want to kind of move to your academy. Like you said, some companies, they'll rely on their academy talent. Some don't. Some don't give those opportunities until they have to, whether it's a business standpoint. But you've been doing it correctly, I can tell from the interviews I've done, with bleeding in some of the Reach Academy talent. Like, what made you decide to do the academy to begin with?
That's a really good question. I think when we started, I've been wrestling 5 years. I think Grayson about the same, about 5 years. So between us, we got about 10 years experience. And I think the feeling for some people was that we shouldn't have been training people, is what some people said. I don't call them haters because that makes me sound like I think I'm some kind of superstar. But there were people that ultimately tried to suggest perhaps we shouldn't be running a school and we shouldn't be, there was this strange feeling in wrestling. It's still there today.
Yeah.
Where they say things like there's a blanket terminologies and like you shouldn't train someone unless you what's one iron. Shouldn't be training people for at least 12 years. And I'm like, oh, says who? I mean, what if, right? What if, let's say me and you are both wrestlers. What if you are an absolutely incredible, impeccable wrestler, and within 3 months they want to put you on shows? Within 6 months, you've won your first championship. Within a year, you're already, up the top card in your count in your main event and all your shit. I mean, 6 months after that, you might end up someone saying, "Look, do you want to come in for a seminar?" And you're thinking, "Oh, I don't think I'm ready." But they say, "There's so much you can teach my guys," and you speak to your coach, and he says, "Yeah, go do it. See what you might know something, but it might take me 2 years to get my first match."
Yeah.
Well, everybody is different. Everybody's learning is different. Everybody's everybody's abilities are different, and everybody learns and grows at different speeds. Between me and Grayson, we have got, I believe, I believed before we started the school, enough knowledge, understanding, and ability to produce some real credible talent. And we knew we had the work ethic to build something. So we just said, I think that's, we kind of looked at it as part of our business and said, we want a school. We want that to be part of what we do. Is as important as the shows is bringing in fresh talent and giving people the right opportunity. Because again, some of the horror stories that you do see in training schools and things all around the country, not just, but you hear all sorts of, our version and view was nobody's to be bullied. I mean, that's, you only got to spend 30 seconds in the school. I mean, there's none of that anywhere. It's just not a thing. It doesn't exist. And nobody puts each other down. If there's beef, there's beef because everybody's human. I'm not asking. You don't walk through the door of Reach and I say, right, you must like everybody. It doesn't work like that because that's not the way it works. That's not how adults communicate, But there's always a respect for each other. And I think we realized we've got between us, we like different things and we teach different things and we got different teaching styles, but we mesh quite well. And we just kind of wanted to give an opportunity like we had, really. We wanted to give opportunities to people to see what they could do. And the people that and I've got to address it really because it's good to have a platform to address it. And I addressed it face to face many times with people in locker rooms and things. And, there's no beef now, but there were times, of course there were, when people wanted to, but often what you'd find is people would get on the social medias and say things that they really shouldn't have said, to be honest with you, because I think if you're the kind of person that runs his mouth on social media, then or her mouth, you've got to understand that eventually it probably going to catch up with you.
Yep.
And if you're not prepared for the worst possible scenario outcome, it's like anything in life, right? Somebody in life, if you haven't been brought up correctly and you've not made mistakes, you got nothing to learn from. If I made a mistake when I was a kid, if I hadn't used my manners, for example, when I was a kid, my dad, I don't know what would have happened if I hadn't said please and thank you. I couldn't even, I don't know, because he would have just, I don't know what he would have done, but he just made it clear when we were kids. Anytime we left the house, it was please and thank you, please and yes, dad, yes, dad. Like that was drilled into me from about the age of 4, right? And like it just, It just was. I did not know what the consequences would have been if I had not done as I was told. I didn't want to find out, right? Yeah. But I knew if I went out one day, if I went out somewhere with my parents and I didn't say please and thank you, then I knew if I got caught not doing that, then there was going to be hell to pay. I was prepared, let's say, for that consequence, all right? Now, the reason I'm saying this is because it sounds to me like sometimes some of the people that we meet in our business in wrestling, some of the people we tend to meet along the way almost come across to me like they never learn the consequences. They never had to face the consequence of their actions. And in a world of professional wrestling, you meet a lot of characters, male and female, and a lot of people that you have met some really good, honest men and women in this business who are cool friends. And I have met some real slimy little buggers. And I just often there would be you'd see comments and things, you know, when the school started about how we should be doing this and we should. I mean, no one was coming to the school and having a look at what was going on. No one was poking their head in. No one was messaging me and saying, "Hey, man, listen, this is." I mean, one person was to our face suggesting that we shouldn't be running the school, and that same person that suggested it to our face then apologized afterwards, sat me down and said, said, the guys are getting much better. My mistake. He said, fair enough, one person. And there were double-figure digits of people that were running their mouths, but they were running their mouths, not thinking of the consequences. Because it's really important, I think, in life that people learn to, if you steal, you might get, if you speed in your car and you get caught, you get fined and you get points on your license. If you steal, you might have to do community service. I don't know, but in wrestling, if you run your mouth, it's going to catch up with you somewhere, probably.
Yeah.
Because everybody talks in our business too. I mean, the amount of chat groups and messages and everything gets shared on the old social medias. I mean, that Twitter. I'm just learning to use Twitter now. I've been trying. But my word, is there some beauties on Twitter? Like I can't believe Twitter. To me, it's like a cyber playground. Like
so bad.
Oh mate, like I see grown men and grown women sort of retweeting things, and I'm looking at this stuff going, my word, like you're a professional athlete and you're sort of tit for tatting, and I just think I've never seen anything like it in my life. I've never seen anything like I'm almost a fan of the nonsense of it. Like I almost can sit down with a cup of tea and go, "Oh, Twitter's funny." Like I just think because I don't get lost in the nonsense of it. For me, if there is a problem, then we must address it. It must be addressed, and it can't be swept under the rug. It's got to be. We've got to meet head on and deal with it whatever way it's got to be dealt with. And I think a year and a half on with our training school, I'm very proud, to say that if they look at who we've got, male and female, coming out of the school, the talent we've got coming through the school, referees and wrestlers, competitors. I mean, we could do an entire bleeding podcast on that alone. I mean, I don't have to. Someone that talks so much like I do, I don't even have to say so much about the school. The talent speaks for itself now.
Yeah.
Something must be going right down at that school, in that unit there, in Plymouth. Something must be happening. Because when you've got Joey Seven, coming through the door, like he is, L.A. Taylor, Aurora, Danny Steele, Jackson Shaw, Echo Reed, Silverback Redwood, lucky you got Matt Evans, Carl Parker. I mean, I don't have to. I don't have to go on Twitter and slate anybody. Like if I do, it's usually in character, like and me doing a deal with somebody. If I don't have to go on Facebook and shit on other people's schools and other people's companies, I don't have to do that because what we're building, we stay in our lane. It's a saying I heard recently: "Stay in your lane." It's a really good saying. I never heard that before. Only about a month ago, I heard someone say that, and it makes perfect sense. I think we just focus on us and what we're doing and what we're building. And the proof is in the pudding. You know, look at those names I just rattled off.
Yeah.
You can't argue with. I mean, you can't argue with what's happening. You know, and that's the proudest. I'll tell you now, my proudest thing that I've done in 6 years. I wanted to wrestle Doug and I wanted to win titles and everything. But seeing like the students, they're like my kids. You know, they're like my children. Seeing them come through, you know, and I can't watch their matches sometimes. Like I watch, but I get scared because I'm so worried, you know, something's going to go wrong. And I'll be the first one to hug them as soon as they get back through the curtain. And I'm just so proud of, you know, their development as people, as performers, and you know, their attitudes to what they do and everything. And just, that's so rewarding to me. So rewarding.
No, like 100%. I think if people put as much time and effort in building things up and being positive as they do to spend negative and shoot things down, their life would look a lot more productive. But in terms of like the talent, you reeled them off there, and you do have like LA Taylor having like going toe to toe with Millie McKenzie, and she's new. She's still young in her career, yet she's going against one of the best regardless of gender, one of the best professional wrestlers in the world in Millie, in my opinion. And you are seeing that come out. And how does it feel for you to see that your talent getting noticed from whether it's people like myself or different companies wanting to use them? Obviously, you took LA, and LA, they took a drive down to you with WAW, did some training there, and then before you know it, they got put on the WAW Academy show because they impressed. How does that feel?
You're proud. You're proud because you're proud because I mean, I went to Norwich with them because I'm friends with Roy. If they'd have said they were going to, I don't know, Liverpool, I might have gone. As much as I'd like to go, yeah, I can sit that one out, you know. But because I, you know, knew some of the guys in Norwich, I thought it would be nice to catch up with, you know, some of the old crew and everything. But seeing them there and watching them, because you feel like a proud parent, I sort of sat and watched a little bit of the training a couple of the times, and I was sort of watching them, and after a little while, I was like, you know, you can relax. It's like, I imagine, I don't have any kids, but I would imagine it's what it's like when your kid goes and plays in the park or plays in like the ball pool area, and you're constantly worried that, you know, I was just like, something's going to go wrong. And after a while, I sort of thought, if you've trained them as you and Grayson as well as you think you have, then you should be fine. You know what I mean? Like, it should be okay. Like, you can relax. Like, I drove off and got a coffee, or I think I went and watched some boxing videos or something, you know, and I said to myself, what are you worried about? Like, and they came out at lunchtime, and I was just like, I was just like, it was almost like the first day at school. I was like, I thought, don't pressure them. And I was like, so girls, how are we? And they're like, they were like, so they just fit in, you know, because wrestling is a language. And I think if you can, it's an art form that you can understand. And if you can understand professional wrestling as an art form, then you can work with anybody, and you can perform with anybody, you can get on with anybody, you can speak that language. If you know how to speak it fluently and you meet somebody else that can speak wrestling fluently between those ropes, then you got nothing to worry about. And I think once you are at that point and you get the understanding of it, doesn't matter where you go, you can work with anyone. And I think perhaps in the feather in the cap way, it's a testament to me and Reeves, and I guess we can take a mild form of credit and say, you know, congratulations, pat yourself on the back. But ultimately, I can brush over that and say, this is, in that instance, Echo Reed and LA Taylor, this is the work of two of the hardest working people we have in the entire school. I mean, LA Taylor is like she's like the mummy goose, you know, like the girls are like, she's like the boss. Like nobody, like nobody, even the dudes, like nobody. If I need something done, I always say to her, I'm like, you know, come here, like, will you do me a favor? Like, if I'm doing whatever I'm doing, something, I always say to her, look, do me a favor, please. Can you just get everybody to, you know, X, Y, Z, A, B, C? And I mean, I can go away for 2 minutes, come back, and it will be, if it's not done, it's on. You know what I mean? And I never have to worry. You know, I can always go to her and, you know, like, and say to her, listen, I need the guys doing this, or let's get some of that. And you can always trust her to be, you know, where you need her to be. And she's very, very, very useful. And she's just dedicated herself And and Echo Reed's like under her wing now. So, which sounds crazy when you think Lauren's only been doing this 18 months, but I can say, like you said with Millie McKenzie, when me and Reeves had the discussion about whether we should put her in there with Millie, it's what we do not want is to put somebody in a match like that with someone of Millie's quality and they get outclassed and basically look out of place and come away from that feeling all upset and say to themselves, "Oh man, I look stupid. I feel stupid." We talked. I think we talked for about a minute, and we both agreed, yeah, she's ready. Yeah, good. Like, and you got to think, like you said, Millie's one of the very best. I mean, I'll admit, right, and this is not some old school sexist thing. I just didn't pay a lot of attention to women's wrestling in this country because I'd only ever wrestled one female in a match, which was Session Moth Martina. And I wrestled her like some years. She's fucking hilarious. She's a lovely girl, man. She's brilliant. I wrestled her and I've not seen her since, like in years. But she's cool, man. She's like really. But they didn't give her the Session Moth gimmick. They just gave her like a babyface generic like woman gimmick, and it was daft. If they'd have given her that gimmick as a babyface against me as a heel, I think we could have, but we still had something really good. And she hits hard too. Like she belted me. Like I remember thinking on the day, like, God damn, what a girl, But my friend Grayson, he said to me, "I'll tell you now," he said, "the women's match at our first TNR show, we had our first women's match, because it was my idea to have a women's title. I said we need a women's championship, I said for definite, we need that, but I just didn't know from a pig ignorant and educated standpoint, I just didn't know how popular women's wrestling was. And then he said, trust me. He said, when you see Millie McKenzie, he said, when she comes out that curtain, he said, she will get the loudest pop of the night. And I said, well, okay, you say so, pal. Well, he was right. And I mean, they absolutely, it was an 18 plus, so everyone was drinking anyway. And she came out, man, looking fierce and looking, like she does. And I was just like, I thought to myself, my God, we have a worldly good performer here, And I said, Grayson, she's really good. And he's like, yeah, no shit. You're just learning what everybody already knows. It's not like, I think I've discovered the secret. And he's like, you are so far behind, she just phenomenal. And we've used her ever since, she's the women's champion. She's been the women's champion for nearly a year. And she's just she's a very good performer. She is, she just, for her size and stature, she carries herself well too. She doesn't look at place. Because LA's, 6 foot tall, and she's, well built, and she's a lot bigger than Millie. And yet it didn't look, the dynamic wasn't off. It was a really good, fun match, and both came away looking, how they should look and strong and everything. And it just, I was proud, man, but I was also like, I felt justified, I think is a good word. If there was any doubt in my mind, that was gone that day. That day it was like, okay, seen that, and I said, okay, good. I got nothing to worry about now. In the sense that we can all still learn. So it wasn't like, right, perfect, Ellie Taylor's finished learning. It wasn't like that, because she took lots from that match. But I just knew if I put her in there now, with someone like Millie, she's she's comfortable with the pace and everything and the understanding, and it was just a really cool thing to say. Yeah, you earned that. With her work ethic is what got her suggested for that match, and she just, it was sink or swimming, and she's swimming. She was doing backstroke. She was chilled and she was in there and having a damn good time, and she looked like she deserved to be in there. So that was really cool.
Yeah, man. No, it's like I said, she stands out. She held her own against the measuring stick, especially in Europe. So it is a testament to yourselves, and I think it's not to go against any of the other people in the academy. Like I said, with Echo, Carl Parker, Danny Steele, you've got Joey Seven, you've got Aurora, Jackson Shaw, and so many others that are coming through, having matches on the main shows and not looking out of place. Like, yes. Carl and Danny were 2 academy students. Having that match on your main show and the crowd was invested, it wasn't as if it was a piss break and people like, there's 2 students. And it's a testament with, like, Carl's charismatic as hell. And Danny, he's probably going to be one of the best mat-based wrestlers in the UK, the way he's going. And Yeah, it's a testament to yourself, and it's why I've really enjoyed doing these from the ground up series with Reach.
Well, I have to say thank you to you for doing them, because I think it's helped my guys as well, like guys and girls, because it's confidence for them to talk about their journey.
Yep.
And when I get a message sometimes, like, I don't know what to say, and I said, go out there and be you. And I'd heard like a couple you've done, and I said, he's really good. He's gonna walk you through it. Like it's really social. And I said, just be yourself and have fun. And I've listened to him, and you've put the guys at ease the whole time, which I'm grateful to you for doing. So thank you. And I think they've been really cool to listen to.
Yep.
And I mean, just everybody's journey is a little bit different, because we don't see perhaps how they feel. It might be, they all came to 4 training sessions, but we don't know what they did outside of those 4 training sessions. We don't know what they did in the other, 20 hours of that day, or the other, 160 odd hours of that week. Everybody's journey is different. So it's really fascinating for me when I was hearing them talk, and I was like, oh, that person's never really let that on, or this person's never, hinted at that. And it's kind of really cool to hear how they think and feel. And, when they're expressing themselves on a forum like this, it's really awesome to hear, and just to know that their passion's there. I think that's the thing, isn't it? That you can tell, that if you didn't want it, like, you couldn't come to our school. It's not to say that I would say don't come to the school. I mean, I might, but
They'd be out of place.
Yeah, they would be. They'd be left behind, because you'd have people that want this more than anything, and then you'd get somebody that's coming along and just not really sort of invested. And I just don't think they would. I think they'd probably end up being left behind just through natural kind of churn. The talent would all start coming through, and I just don't think if they just probably wouldn't be looked at the same way, because you've got to be in the eyes of the coaches and the promoters. You've got to be there. And I think that's one really good thing. If we talk about LA again for a minute, one good thing she really did was she constantly put herself in the eye line to be where she needed to be. She constantly. I mean, another good one for that is Jackson Shaw. If I don't get a message, a day goes by where Jackson Shaw hasn't messaged me something about wrestling, about his character, then something must be wrong. But I mean, he's been coming to the school for nearly 2 years, and it never stops. But one thing I'll tell you is, I was the same with my coach, Tom, when I wrestled at Portsmouth. So I never discourage it, because I'm thinking, okay, my job is to answer these questions. It might be a silly question. I'm not saying you ask silly question, but it might be one where I'm thinking, oh, come on, mate, use your noggin. But then I'll say, use your Swede a minute. Think about it. Oh yeah, it's this. I go there, that. But he's someone that he's just finding what he can be, who he can be. It's not even what, but who. Who is Jackson Shaw? What is Jackson Shaw's version of professional wrestling? What is his version of his art? How will he progress himself? And we've got Adira, and you've got Matt Evans is coming through. I mean, Lucky is gonna be an absolute, like, he's got the ladies gonna love him. He just flies. He's fearless. He's absolutely I mean, he once told me I fell off my roof when I was a kid. I said, oh man, that sounds horrible. He said, no, I didn't really mind. He said, never since. I've just been fearless. He said, with taking crazy jumps off things. And he said, I'll jump off anything. And I said, but you don't need anything. He said, yeah. He said, I'm telling you, I will jump off anything. And I thought, like, that's probably going to help you and hurt you in years to come in your journey. You just got such a great mix. The silverback and the redwood. One of them's, what is he, 6'3" and 26.5 stone, and the other one's 22.5 stone, 6'8". These are 2 bad dudes, right? Yeah. I mean, you wouldn't bar fight these men. You would hope. Well, maybe you would. I would hope not to. I'd rather buy them a drink and say sorry.
I don't know. I do get a bit silly after my 10th Sambuca.
So I'm going to watch out for you in July. Make sure we don't. But like these dudes, but then when you talk to them, they're 2 of the nicest, quietest, calmest men. But then, they go through that curtain, and my word, it's time to go to work and you got Heath. Oh, I mean, once you get me going about these students, you got Heath, who was dark horse. His understanding of professional wrestling is someone who's been wrestling for years, and yet he's been training for 18 months, and yet you would talk to him and sit down, and you'd think, oh, this guy really, really understands the sort of the storytelling side of things, and and why we do certain things we do, and why to avoid things, and where to put things, and it's just Austin Leopold Tyler, who's getting on the social media recently and really starting to get fans invested. It's just it's an absolute murderous row of talent, honestly, of people that. I mean, our goal is to bring out who they are.
Yeah.
My passion really. I don't know if you can tell, but my passion is honestly bringing out of these people like the best version of who they are. Who is Taylor, who is Danny Steele, who is Cole Parker, who and finding that and helping them, who is Joey Seven, finding who they are and bringing that out and just giving that to the wrestling world and giving them the platform, when they earn their opportunities, because everything's earned. You don't get anything. You get nothing. We've had ex-professional athletes come through. We've got, we've had all sorts. Rugby players, boxers, gymnasts, cheerleaders. We got all sorts.
Yeah.
Of disciplines and things come through the school, but none of it matters on day one. You're going to get in the ring and do the work like everybody else. And that's ultimately what it is. You come to work. Nothing beats the hard work, and if you keep your nose clean and you do what's asked of you, and you commit to it, we're given a platform if we can to as many people as we can, to build something special. If we can.
No, I agree, and I'm glad you mentioned Jackson. Like I mentioned earlier, that'll be one of the interviews people can find on my Curtis Angle podcast YouTube series or on Chairshot Radio Network, which is now airing across the world, based out of America. But with the interview with Jackson, and you said, who is Jackson Shaw? And I think with this one, like the idea of From the Ground Up, I was wanting to show a different insight in professional wrestling, maybe inspire others that are considering trying to train in professional wrestling, or might have just started and was like unsure if it's for them. These interviews are giving such a good insight of what the life is and the sacrifices that are made, and sometimes the uncertainty. And I think with Jackson, we talk about the different roles where he transitions to wearing face paint, and now he doesn't think that's for him, and he's going to try and work on something different. And it was one of those where some of the questions he'd be speaking as himself, but then sometimes he'd try and incorporate his character around the Reach Academy as well. And I think that's why these series are important, because it is, like you said, it's discovering what works for you. And it's just, again, from what Jackson says, like he's been there for you since the doors opened, and he'd been working with that character and like, look, maybe tweak this or maybe that ain't working, and you're guiding them through correctly where they're feeling comfortable to come to you with all that information.
Yes, yeah, and I think, again, I've got to give you credit then, because I have to, I don't have to, but I want to say something nice about you, because you've given him, someone like Jackson, again, a platform to come out here and to try to express, perhaps, and like you said, ask the questions of him that make him think and make him sort of work almost. He has to think like, who is Jackson Shaw? Right? Who is he? And there's more than they'll often hear me say at the school. There's more than what you do in those 15 minutes in the ring. That I say there's 24 hours of a day. So what do you do in those other 23 hours and 45 minutes? And Jackson Shaw is an example of someone that is constantly thinking about Jackson Shaw. Who is he? What does he do? How would he do in this situation? What would he do there? What would he say to that person? And he's messaged me, like I said, every day, and he's trying to locate a side of him that is, that he can take to the masses. And I think he's pretty much there now. We had a good chat about a week ago. I think he's got there now. He was a bit uncertain, like you said, going through different ideas, but it's such early days for him that he can go through these ideas and he can toy with these ideas to see what suits him and what doesn't suit him. And like him or not, you're gonna know when he's there. You're gonna know he's about, because he makes it so that you can't ignore him, which I think is is part of what we do in this game, isn't it? So
yeah. No, definitely. And before this just turns into me praising you, you praising me praising you, you praising me. Let's, to wrap things up, like, what are your goals, whether that's in professional wrestling as in-ring competitor or as a promoter? Because obviously we've seen it with some companies. For example, Jim Smallman at Progress, he's left Progress now and he's become part of WWE. So that's closed down. You've seen Lance Storm over in Canada, he closed his school, went signed to WWE. Like, what are your goals in wrestling and for Reach and the Academy?
So a couple of things there. Firstly, that Jim Smallman thing, I think I never met him, but I would say well done. I've never met him because he started his own wrestling company, probably because like most of us, he was a huge fan of wrestling, I would imagine. And gone into he's made it to WWE. So that's the goal, isn't it? For most people. So well done. Lance Storm is another good one. Had his own school, then WWE brings him in as a producer and then tells him he's let go or furloughed. So then I shouldn't laugh, but he's closed the school and now he's probably thinking, well, what's I mean, I don't know, but I'm guessing he's up to move his entire I would guess he's probably had to move his entire life from Canada to Connecticut or somewhere like that. I would guess. So New York even. I don't know what's really occurred there, but what I think. My goals used to be obviously I wanted to wrestle and perform and show people my version of this art and what I thought professional wrestling should look like and be like. And there's not a blanket term to it because it can be many different things. But I wanted to show my version of what this art is, and I think I've done that enough. And the only thing in ring that I still want to do is I want to wrestle for the WWE. I want to, at least once. I just want to have one match on WWE TV and say, you know what, I got one. They've seen me now, and at least I can say, you got one. You got at least one shot at it. Which for me is ultimately the last thing, really. Because titles and I won a few titles and everything, and I had matches with all my friends, and I got to wrestle Doug. Doug Williams was who I wanted ultimately to wrestle. I'm a big fan of the stories that we can build in matches, and I've had great times building stories as with different opponents over months of, and I've just had some really, really fun, exciting build-ups. So that you go out the curtain and they're already, chanting F you at you before you even got through the curtain. You're thinking, well, what's that curtain? This roof's going to go, and you just feel 10 feet tall because you feel like the work you put in, the people understand, the people are involved, and they got a feeling for it. And I think once I had a few like that, I was like, you know what, like my in-ring stuff is exciting and everything, but now I want to give like back a little bit where I can. And the school, I think we've got to be realistic and say to ourselves, the WWE have never had they've got WWE NXT UK now. So there's absolutely no reason why our guys and girls can't get there. If we keep going in the trajectory that we're going in, I think mostly people seem to say real nice thing. Come to think of it, actually, if I just took my own horn for a split second, I don't think I've seen anything negative about our school yet. I always expected something to pop up from someone somewhere. I haven't heard anything where anyone's ever, I've never got a screenshot from anyone saying, "Oh yeah, look, this is," I've never seen it. And maybe I'm like shielded from it, like to save me getting upset. I don't know. Maybe there's a load going on. I don't see it, but I think if we keep going in the path that we appear to be going, we got to look at WWE. We've got to be saying some of our guys we want to get them there, because if that's what they want, that's their goal. They're the world leaders, and that's where we need to try and get our people to, and if we never get them there, then you know what? Just keep building Reach and make Reach, so good that the WWE can't ignore us, and then let's make it so that, we become one of the top, without a shadow of a doubt, with the number one company in the Southwest. Like this, just I don't know what measuring stick we want to use, but I feel like ours is. I think it's a pretty much no-brainer to say that's the state at the moment, and I think that's not arrogant, because I think that's just the truth of where we've built ourselves to at present. Do we compete with All-Star Wrestling? Well, no, their turnover is a lot greater than ours. Do we have the following of, say, a Rev Pro? No. Is our training school perhaps seen as widely as Dragon Pros? No, because they've been running longer. And all these companies that I'm still looking up at, if I'm coming up the mountain and I'm climbing and it's getting really steep, I'm stopping, I'm looking up and I'm saying there are still companies, of course there are, that are much, much higher peaks than we are. But I'm looking at them and I'm saying, okay, well, I'm climbing fast because I am working hard. So if you're not working as hard as we're working, then we're coming for you. Like we're coming. We're not going anywhere. We're on the way up, and we're not. I mean, we're not stopping for anybody. It's not gonna. This is our work. We've got 40 students roughly on the books at the moment of all ages, male and female. And they're the future. So as we have who we have at the moment, like on our books, on our shows and everything, we got 40 more at the moment, at least, churning over as we grow and as we move and as we we run Devon and Cornwall. We've got a new city to announce for a show in October.
Okay.
So that'll be our that's coming real soon. We're going back to Tavistock. We're going back to Cornwall. We're obviously keeping Plymouth. We're just gonna. It's be a bit sort of punny here, but we're trying to get as much reach as we can. Get it once, you know what I mean? Like, but I just think our goal is to reach as many professional wrestling fans as we can, and show them our version of professional wrestling. And say this is our belief, what proper professional wrestling looks like, and hopefully, along the way, build some stars and try to help people make better livings. And if you can say to yourself, right, I don't enjoy my day job, and maybe I'm not in a great position, but then you say, perhaps you then say, but the thing I'm looking forward to is in 6 days' time is Reach Wrestling. And I love seeing Reach Wrestling because I want to see, I don't know, Jason King get his ass kicked. Or I love seeing Reach Wrestling because I really like Joe Rebel. LA Taylor's my favorite, or whatever the deal is, right? If we can offer even just that to someone, then I think we're doing right by the world,
Yeah, no, 100%. 100%. So, yeah, Jason, thank you for coming on. I think there was so much more we could have discussed, but at this point, it'd have been a 24-hour interview. But no, thank you so much for coming on the show. Again, keep up the great work, whether it's in ring with Reach or the Academy. Just let people know where can they find you, where can they find Reach. If they're listening to this or listen to any of the From the Ground Ups involving your students, where can they find the Academy to sign up?
Yeah, absolutely. So Reach, you can find we're Reach Wrestling and Reach Academy, both pages on Facebook. So if you just type in Reach Wrestling and Reach Academy, you can't miss us. So give the page a like, and what you do is you'll get all the updates. Then you'll see all the updates. You'll see everything, all training dates, or seminars, or shows. Everything is always posted primarily through Facebook, because most people tend to have Facebook. So that's why we do it all through there. You can check Reach Wrestling out on Twitter and Instagram. We're on both of those as well. So if you were to type in Reach Wrestling, can't miss us on Twitter and Instagram, but I would certainly recommend checking us out on Facebook, because that's primarily where a lot of our notifications come from. All the wrestlers that we've named tonight on their Facebook pages, you can check them out too. They'll be updating content regularly with what they're doing, even in the downtime now. Some of them are just putting out training routines. Some of them are putting out like merchandise videos. There's all sorts going on. So the world may have sort of slowed down, but it hasn't stopped, and nor have they. And you can find me, obviously, I'm Jason King. You can find me on Twitter. I guess if you type in Jason King, it will come up. I'm not very good with Twitter, but like Instagram, I'm on, and then I've got a Facebook page, Jason King. You can always add me or a fan page there. And I'll try to stay interactive as well. I try to keep everything fresh and keep everybody updated. But I want to also say thanks to you for letting me come onto the podcast, because it's been fun for me too. I had a real good time, real good fun talking to you. I'm looking forward to seeing you in July, mate. That'll be fun. We'll have to get some drinks and get some good time. We'll have to have a word with Omega or Luke. Yep. Maybe I'll slap him when you're there for that Williams story. It was good to talk, man. I appreciate it. So thank you for having me.
No, thank you. And yeah, guys, if things do allow the show to go ahead, make sure you check out Reach Wrestling and try and get to the 728 Days Later show on 4th of July, again, pandemic permitting. If you're stuck at home, you're in isolation, you ain't got much to do, go over to Your Fight site. You can check out Reach Wrestling on the UK Wrestling On Demand subscription. as well. So you get Reach Wrestling as well as other companies. Again, some fantastic shows on there. So make sure you check that out. You can find me on my personal account at Kurt Johansson93. You can find the podcast at Kurt's Angle Pod. And you can also find me over at Ringsiders Pod for my shows and YouTube content. We're doing a lot more video stuff with Jamie and Callum now, so make sure you check that out. Some great stuff there. And yeah, whether or not you're listening on Chairshot Radio Network, if you're listening on Kurt's Angle Pod, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Let everybody know what you thought about the episodes. Make sure you check through the fantastic interviews with the Reach Academy students. And yeah, you'll be able to find me shortly on Turnbuckle TV for some more exciting video content coming up. Thank you for listening. Bye for now.
Always use your head.